Biggs and Wedge are a recurring duo in Final Fantasy. They've had a variety of roles and appearances, but tend to pop up somewhere as minor supporting characters. The two take their names from the Star Wars franchise. Biggs Darklighter and Wedge Antilles were members of Red Squadron, a group of X-Wing pilots fighting for the Rebel Alliance. The two were Luke Skywalker's wingmen during the Battle of Yavin, where the Rebels destroyed the first Death Star. When the trio began their trench run, they were pursued by Darth Vader, who destroyed Biggs's fighter and killed him. Wedge took a glancing shot from Vader and pulled out. His fate is unclear in A New Hope, but he appears in later films and the sequel trilogy, continuing to serve as a pilot for the Rebels and the New Republic. The names were likely used in Final Fantasy VI to parallel the Star Wars characters, as two troopers who accompany Terra on her expedition to Nosh and are killed. Beyond this, it is unclear why the names continued to be used in later games, and the connections between the Star Wars characters and the Final Fantasy characters became increasingly superficial. Much like Cid, Mog, and Garland, the names have taken on lives of their own and established their own legacy within the franchise. The exact roles Biggs and Wedge play varies between games, but there are some recurring traits. Biggs is the taller of the two, sometimes significantly so, and Wedge may be more portly. Biggs tends to be more stern and gruff, while Wedge is more sociable, and Biggs outranks Wedge, or at least acts in a more authoritative manner than him. The two sometimes have color-coded outfits. Biggs wears red, and Wedge wears blue. They may appear alongside a female character named Jessie, in reference to Final Fantasy VII, where the three of them were the primary members of Avalanche aside from Barret and Tifa. Biggs and Wedge did not originally appear in Final Fantasy IV, but were retroactively integrated into continuity in the sequel of the After Years. In the After Years, Biggs is the captain of the Red Wings with Wedge as his second, and they escort Theodore on his knight's trial to defeat a monster inside the Adamant Isle cave. On their way back to Baron, they are attacked by monsters and their airship crashes, and Theodore is the only survivor, with Biggs and Wedge fatally wounded. At this time, a flashback reveals that the two are among the crew that accompanied Cecil during the raid on Mysidia at the start of Final Fantasy IV. The interlude chapter included in the PSP port also features Biggs and Wedge among the crew of the airship Cecil and Rosa take to Dam Cyan. Biggs and Wedge are guest characters that accompany Theodore during the Adamant Isle cave, and explain to him basic gameplay concepts, including the band system. Biggs is able to use black magic while Wedge uses white magic, and they have a unique band, Vibra Edge, that damages all enemies. Despite the After Years retconning them into the original game, no version of Final Fantasy IV to come out since has named Biggs and Wedge among Cecil's crew. In Final Fantasy VI, the duo made their debut as Terra's escort to attack Nosh and investigate rumors of a frozen Esper being discovered in the mines. The three fight their way through the guards and find the Esper, but it reacts to Terra's power and awakens. Biggs and Wedge vanish in flashes of light. While it is never made explicit, they were apparently killed by the Esper. As guest characters, the two use the same sprite used by all generic Imperial troopers, and have their equipment locked and have no special abilities. Since they are riding Magitech armor, they can use the basic set of commands available to all playable characters while riding the armor. In the original Super NES localization, Biggs is named Vix. This likely stems from Biggs' name in Japanese being spelled with a K sound instead of a G, causing the translator to not catch the reference to the Star Wars character. Later ports of Final Fantasy VI in Japanese retain the K spelling of the name, but the English localizations consistently translate it as Biggs regardless. Final Fantasy VII gives Biggs and Wedge a larger role as members of Avalanche under Barret. The two aid in Avalanche's bombing of the Sector 1 and Sector 5 reactors, though they pull back from the latter mission and leave it to Cloud, Barret, and Tifa to infiltrate the reactor. When Shinra decides to drop the Sector 7 plate to destroy Avalanche, Biggs and Wedge are among the Sector citizens who try to fight Shinra's forces on the Pillar, and both are killed. The remake of the game considerably expands their roles, establishing Biggs as a calm and rational strategist, and Wedge as an informant able to make and maintain contacts due to his friendly demeanor. Biggs gives a tutorial on weapon modification in lieu of paying Cloud for aid around Sector 7, and the two spread word of Cloud's mercenary work to help bolster his reputation in the community. The two also accompany Cloud and Jessie during a trip to the top of the plate to visit Jessie's family and infiltrate a Shinra facility for supplies for their next mission. During the raid on the Sector 5 reactor, Biggs goes ahead to scout out a path into the reactor, and meets up with Cloud, Barrett, and Tifa before returning to Sector 7. As in the original game, the two take part in the defense of Sector 7's support pillar when Shinra tries to destroy it. Biggs is found wounded and apparently dies, but the game's ending reveals he survived and is recovering inside the Sector 5 orphanage. Wedge nearly dies by falling off the pillar, but uses a grappling gun to soften his landing, and he lives. He and Aerith convince Shinra guards blocking the sector exits to allow the civilians to escape, and Wedge returns to his home to rescue the numerous cats he takes care of. He is caught in the plate's collapse and falls into an underground Shinra facility, where Barrett and Tifa find him later. Wedge is taken to Aerith's house to recover, and when the three attempt to infiltrate Shinra's headquarters to rescue Aerith, he goes to try and help them. He meets up with Mayor Domino, an Avalanche insider, and speaks to Cloud and the party to tell them they've received support from other Avalanche cells, who have arranged evacuation for them. As Wedge tries to escape the building, the Whispers gather around him and push him back into an elevator shaft, seemingly dropping him to his death in the name of preserving the continuity of the original game's timeline. However, his death is not directly seen, so he too may have survived. Biggs and Wedge get a nod in Crisis Core when Zack is fleeing Nibelheim, and two of the Shinra artillery machines he destroys are named Biggs and Wedge. The duo are also alluded to in Dirge of Cerberus, when Vincent meets a young girl who claims she had a brother that was part of an anti-Shinra group and was killed when the Sector 7 plate fell. It is unknown if she is referring to Biggs or Wedge. Final Fantasy VIII marks the first time Biggs and Wedge are antagonists, and the first time they are identified by specific colors. Major Biggs and Lieutenant Wedge are members of the Galbadian army, and Biggs oversees the occupation of Dalit and the repairs to the city's radio tower. Squall, Zell, and Selphie engage the two, and they are blown away by Elvaret, a monster that Wedge had noticed earlier, but Biggs ignored his warnings. After Squall and his allies leave, Biggs relays orders to the robot X-ATM-092 to pursue them, and then passes out. For their failure in the mission, the two are demoted. While the party is held prisoner in the D-District prison, Lieutenant Biggs and Private Wedge happen to be two of the guards sent to deal with them when they act unruly, and the two groups are surprised to run into each other again. Biggs is furious over his demotion and vows revenge, but the two are again defeated. They appear once more near the end of the game, aboard the lunatic Pandora. Biggs is frustrated over his treatment and having to take orders from Cypher, and the two decide to quit the army and abandon their posts and leave. As bosses, the two fight similarly to the normal Galbadian troops the player fights, but have higher stats and stronger magic. The second fight has a humorous Easter egg if the player casts Confuse to make one of them attack the other. They will then hit back and yell at them for doing so. The duo shares a triple triad card and are a rank 5 boss card. Their card is different in the remastered versions of the game, seemingly changed to match their card in the real-life version of Triple Triad released by Bandai. In Final Fantasy X, Biggs and Wedge are guards stationed at Lucca guarding the Blitzball Stadium, and can be recruited as Blitzball players for the Besaid Aurochs. Biggs is best as a forward due to high endurance, but his stats fall off at later levels, while Wedge has low stats other than shoot, but becomes an effective goalie at high levels. The two also appear in 10-2 among the starting lineup for the Gullwings Blitzball team. Biggs and Wedge receive a shoutout in Final Fantasy XII, in the form of two Imperial soldiers named Gibbs and Deweg. They guard the entrance to the Moss Foran High Waste from Nabelna Fortress before the story events at Mount Ber-Armisis, where the way past them is opened. If the player approaches the two on a chocobo, Gibbs will recount his past with caring for chocobos to the point it caused him to wreak horribly, and flees, and Deweg follows. This allows the player to access the Moss Foran High Waste earlier than intended. This is not really an appearance of Biggs and Wedge. Their names are only given in the English localization. The original Japanese game only referred to them as Senior and Junior Imperial Officers. Biggs and Wedge get a minor shoutout in Final Fantasy XIII, where one of the shops is called B&W Outfitters. The logo for the shop shows the letters V and W, likely a nod to Vix in Final Fantasy VI. Two characters named Biggs and Wedge, likely unrelated to the shop, appear in Lightning Returns, running a pair of death games where contestants can hunt monsters in an enclosed space for rewards. Completing both of them earns the player the Dragoon Garb, but Lightning asks them to close down the games, recognizing them as a means for people to die while having a final bit of excitement. The two agree and can later be found in the market, where they now make a living as musicians and play a remix of Terra's theme from Final Fantasy VI. Final Fantasy XIV features Biggs and Wedge as engineers working for Cid in the Garland Ironworks. Biggs is a Rogadin and Wedge is a Lalafell. Biggs and Wedge are not their real names, but aliases they took after defecting from the Gallian Empire, in order to protect their families that still live within the Empire. The Warrior of Light first meets them when their airship, the Tiny Bronco, is shot down, and the two must be saved from Imperials sent to recapture them and the airship. The two return to the Waking Stones and become allies of the Scions of the Seventh Dawn. They are captured after an Imperial attack on the Waking Stones, but manage to escape and reunite with Cid, and help rescue the other Scions. Biggs and Wedge appear in numerous quests and subplots involving Cid and the Garland Ironworks. In the Heavensward expansion, the dragon Nidhogg surrounds his lair with a barrier of fierce winds. Cid's airship, the Enterprise, could weather such winds, but the ship is not agile enough to evade attacks from dragons. Instead, they show the Warrior of Light a project Biggs and Wedge had been working on, the Mana Cutter, a new, smaller model of airship that is more maneuverable. The Warrior of Light is able to use the Mana Cutter to fly into Nidhogg's lair safely. The two are also present during the Ironworks investigations into Alexander and Omega. In the Shadowbringers expansion, Biggs and Wedge are called in to help investigate a mysterious beacon, which has the symbol of the Ironworks on it. The beacon sends the Warrior of Light to the First, a parallel world to the Source, the main world the game takes place in. It is explained that in the future, a calamity of light was unleashed due to a plague created by the Garleans, and Wedge was killed in a monster attack while Biggs started a family. The Garland Ironworks dedicated itself to researching a means to travel back in time to prevent the calamity, which involved data gathered from Alexander and Omega, who could traverse space and time. Biggs' descendant, who shares his name and appearance, was able to complete his research and sent Grahatia into the past within the Crystal Tower, and they appeared in the First, where they sent the beacon to bring the Warrior of Light across worlds to avert the calamity. Final Fantasy XV features Biggs and Wedge as members of the Niflheim Empire and comrades of Harmonea Highwind. They first appear in the Vesper Pool, when Ardyn leads Noctis and his friends to some ruins in search of mithril needed to repair their yacht. Harmonea is stationed at the entrance of the ruins with Biggs and Wedge, and she accompanies Noctis into the ruins while they secure the surface. The two later reappear with Harmonea in Tenebrae after darkness has started to overtake the world, and operate a train to take Noctis and his party to Gralia, the Niflheim capital. In the novel Dawn of the Future, based on scrapped plans for additional DLC episodes, Biggs and Wedge appear in Harmonea's chapter. Gralia is overrun by demons, and the two help Harmonea evacuate the citizens and defeat a diamond weapon unleashed by Ardyn. In Lunafreya's chapter, it is revealed that during the 10-year time skip, the two have been taking care of a girl named Solara, the secret daughter of Niflheim's emperor, and the three as well as Harmonea are demon hunters. They accompany Lunafreya and Solara when they venture into Solheim ruins to rescue Harmonea, and take part in the final battle between Noctis and Bahamut, along with many of Noctis's other allies. Biggs and Wedge have made a variety of cameos in other titles, sometimes in major roles, other times as subtle nods. Games that include randomly generated names for characters often include them on the lists of possible names, and they are name-dropped in games such as World of Final Fantasy and Chocobo's Dungeon 2. Some games feature them as enemies, usually based on the Final Fantasy VIII incarnation, but not exclusively. The city of Final Fantasy has Biggs and Wedge as tutors in the in-game manuals, and Biggs makes a joke about his name being mistranslated. In Final Fantasy Dimensions, Biggs and Wedge are guards stationed at Castle Lux, and initially deny the party entry, dismissing them as children. Once they sneak into the castle and accept the king's quest, the two allow them to come and go freely. In Dimensions 2, Biggs is a Western soldier, and Ueji is a soldier from Ajima, but Biggs finds his name too hard to pronounce and nicknames him Wedge instead. Biggs has become a deserter, and the two journey together and slowly become friends, and they uncover a plot by the leader of Ajima, Marina, to develop a super weapon to use against Westa. After she is revealed as Morolith and is defeated, the two resolve to return to their countries and help them achieve peace. This game inverts their usual color scheme. Biggs wears blue and Wedge wears red. Final Fantasy Record Keeper has Biggs and Wedge as supporting comic relief characters. They are introduced as aides to the Shadowsmith, a member of the Royal Arcanum that arrives to help Tyro and Dr. Mog investigate the cause of the corrupted records. On the Shadowsmith's orders, Biggs and Wedge accompany Tyro on his adventures to observe him, and gradually become genuine friends with him. When the Shadowsmith is revealed to have more nefarious goals he is manipulating Tyro towards, Biggs and Wedge betray him and side with Tyro against him. In battle, Biggs is an Earth Elemental physical fighter, specializing in night and heavy combat skills, while Wedge is a Wind Elemental hybrid physical magical character, able to use Thief, Celerity, and Black Magic abilities. Final Fantasy Brave Exvius features Biggs and Wedge as units, piloting Magitech armor from Final Fantasy VI, and the two can use various Magitech attacks. The Final Fantasy VII duo also appear together as a unit, and have supportive abilities for the party. Kingdom Hearts 2 has two shopkeepers named Biggs and Wedge, who operate shops in Twilight Town and Hollow Bastion, and Twilight Town also has Jessie as a shopkeeper and a man named Wallace, after Barrett. Chrono Trigger features two soldiers named Biggs and Wedge in the Millennial Fair. As in Final Fantasy VI, Biggs was originally mistranslated as Vix, but this is corrected in the game's DS release. An issue of the Japanese magazine V-Jump joked that they are the same Biggs and Wedge as in Final Fantasy VI, and when the Frozen Esper seemingly killed them, they were actually teleported to the world of Chrono Trigger and got new jobs. Thank you to everyone for watching. Remember to like and subscribe for more lore of Final Fantasy in the future, and stop by the community tab on my channel to vote on the next subject.